Life of a door knocker can be tough. Having doors slammed in your face on a daily basis, people not exactly hearing what you have to say.
What?
Not the most friendly customer.
Not interested. Now get the off my property, and by the way, go get a real job.
The good news is, it doesn't have to be that way. Welcome to the Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast, where it's all about increasing your confidence, building rapport with your customers, and closing more sales. Here is your host, Paul Shakuri.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast. I'm freaking pumped to bring you guys yet another episode because in this one, we're going to be talking about retail sales versus door-to-door sales, the pros and cons of both, and why you should be doing each of them, whichever one you want to do or choose. If you're listening to the Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast, I'm pretty sure you want to do some door-to-door sales, get better at it, close more sales, and make a bunch of cha-ching, make a bunch of money. But in the process, help out, obviously, others, help out your customers, help out the company you work for, and have it a win-win situation for everybody. When you start realizing that that is really what door-to-door sales is truly about, you're going to know who you want to talk to, how, who, what, where, when, and why, the whole details. It's all going to fit in. And I'm going to bring it to you here on the Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast. So I'm also going to give you guys right now an update of our actual schedule here on the Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast. What basically we've come up with right now, and we're going to test it out for at least a month just to see if this is something that you guys are liking. And I'm gonna in a later podcast give you guys a place where you can go and give me feedback too on how you're liking the show, what you want to hear more of. You can always email me right now at pshak@entadr.com. Yes, it is me who actually responds to you guys and gals out there. I really do. And, I thank you so much for those that actually respect the fact that, I'm a super busy person and I get back to you and you really say thank you. That means a lot. I'm very grateful for the people that communicate with me. I get back to you guys. So, feel free to. I do get a lot. So please give me like 24 to 48 hours to, get back to you currently with my schedule right now. But, I do get a lot of emails and I do get back to you guys. So we're going to do podcasts every Sunday at 7 a.m. Arizona time, which is normally mountain time. And just so you guys, if you guys know or not, but, Arizona has its own time, time zone because it never changes here. It's one of I believe the only place where there's one more place in the world like it. But just some advice, some information for you there is Arizona's time never changes. Isn't that crazy? When I found that out, I was like, wow, I'm used to, either Eastern time, Mountain, West, or whatever, you name it, Central time. Okay, so every Sunday, there's going to be a podcast that's going to be released, okay? It's going to be at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then also what I'm going to do is, for now, it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're going to get a brand new blog post on the Door-to-Door Mastery podcast, on the Door-to-Door Mastery blog. Okay, so every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I'm going to keep it the same at 7 a.m. It'll be up. It'll automatically be posted. And I'm giving you guys some quality information. I came out here shooting guns saying, I'm definitely going to make sure that people who really want to succeed in door-to-door sales, I'm going to give you guys the proper education. And, I say that. However, now it's time for you guys to really see it. Just like a customer of yours, a client of yours, when you're knocking on a door, you have to prove yourself to them. You got to prove your actual product. You got to prove who you are and earn their trust and likability. And my goal is to be very fun and friendly on this podcast. And so far, you guys are loving it. And that's what gives me my joy. Doing this podcast. I really enjoy hearing, that's Paul, thank you so much because I've went and I've used and implemented your teachings and it's helped me already close a couple more sales this week, which makes me feel that much better, which increases the standard of living, my standard of living, my lifestyle. And if it does for me, obviously the trickle effect happens. What does it do to your office? What does it do for other people when you're getting sales? It really is the trickle effect. That's what door-to-door sales is all about. It's all about energy, momentum, movement. You got to get yourself excited every single day to get out there. So an update to the blog. A lot of you guys have messaged me saying, Paul, I want to rate you on iTunes, but how? Where do I go? How do I even get to it? I made it a little bit easier. So now when you go to doortodoormastery.com, on the right-hand side, you'll actually see, if you scroll below official products, you'll actually see an iTunes, our actual cover of the subscribe with iTunes and an arrow pointing towards it. If you click on that and you have iTunes, well, it will open up in iTunes automatically, bring you directly to the Door to Door Mastery podcast, what you are listening to right now, unless you're actually streaming this live from the actual website itself. Download iTunes. Even if you have a PC, you're not on a Mac, you can download iTunes and you can automatically get every single episode. Whenever I release it, it'll automatically download to your computer. How awesome is that? You get to automatically, view it and listen to it whenever you want, however you want, whenever you like. And like I said, it's going to be every Sunday and at 7 a.m. So you'll have it directly. Okay. So go and rate that, please. That helps move me up in the rankings. I need to get up there in the rankings. You door-to-door salespeople, I know we stick together. Let's move this podcast up. It's currently in the careers category of iTunes. I'm also on Stitcher, and I'm going to work on getting the podcast to the other major networks, But these are the two main high traffic volumes. So my team is working really hard as well at really updating the site and getting everything up and posted and running, and to get that flow going for you guys, because we want to bring that information to you. So retail sales versus door-to-door sales. As a kid, when I was I'd say about 14. I was 16 to 17 years old. I went out there and I was working at the largest sports retail store in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta, West Edmonton Mall in particular. For those of you Canadians, out there or even Americans who have heard of West Edmonton Mall or the Edmonton Oilers, Edmonton, right? West Edmonton Mall is one of the largest malls in the world, and it was a high volume retail store, and I actually worked that retail store. I used to sell shoes. I used to sell clothing. I used to sell almost sporting. I wasn't that good at the actual skates and all that stuff, so they didn't quite put me there. Where I was best at was actually selling the shoes. Yeah, like Al Bundy, except this was sports shoes. I did very well. How they paid basically was like this, and a lot of retail stores do this. Retail stores will normally pay you a base commission, and then a base salary. And if you hit your base salary, if you don't hit your commission, which is you'll get your base salary. Let me slow it down a second here. That I made that sound a little too complicated. They will give you a base salary. So no matter what, if you sell, you don't do that great, whatever, they're going to give you a base that you will actually get every single week, whatever that number will be. However, if your commissions, and at the time it was 7% of retail, which is 7% of the ticket price of the actual, whatever it says on the actual tag, and shoes then ranged from $80 all the way up to $120, which is about kind of like how it is now. But anyways, even higher, there was $150, $200 in Canada. It was a lot more expensive than the States, that's for sure. However, I would get 7% of whatever I sold. So if you factor it in, either you get your base, or if you exceed that in any given 2 weeks, bi-weekly, well, you wouldn't get your base, but you would actually get your commissions. So what are the benefits, the pros and cons to that? Well, the pros, the actual good thing about that is no matter what, you're getting a paycheck, right? And no matter what, you're getting an actual paycheck. And a lot of people need stability, in sales, especially when they're not too confident whether they're going to be able to perform or not. So if you're not confident enough in your sales pitch, and in what you're doing in your whatever type of sales job you're doing, it's good to rely on that base if a company is really willing to pay that to you. However, for more experienced sales reps or people who are, deemed to make sure that they're going to make the best and the most out of an actual commission sales job, doing 100% commission is better. Why? Well, because if you're on 100% commission and you're not actually just getting a base either or. What happens is when because people normally ask me this question, Paul, what's better if I go on 100% commission or base salary? I kind of like the base, but I can 100% commission might be better for me. Well, let me explain to you guys the difference and how this makes sense. Well, I personally like doing 100% commission. Why? Because normally, it will pay more than a company that will offer you a base or your commission. Yeah, but Paul, if it's or the commission, if I hit my commission, it can be as high as, the sky, right? As high as I actually do it. Well, no, it's not like that. Let me explain to you why. When you're working in an actual retail environment, think about all the overhead costs that a retail store would have, in a mall, for example, or, in a complex. If in any plaza or any mall that a retail store is, they have the overhead of the actual office, all the utilities, the phone bill, they even have the rent, they have all the secretaries, the actual employees' base salary. There's so much overhead that the company has to pay out. And where do they make their money back? They have to obviously be profitable in order to stay in business, in order to move forward and prosper. But how? What do they need to do? They need to spend this money. But when they actually have to put so much money, they have a ton of overhead. Overhead eats into profits. The less overhead you have, well, the more profits there's going to be to the company. The more profits there is to the company, if you're working for the right company, well, they're able to actually pay out a higher commission, right? So when you don't have these overheads, you can actually be on 100% commission without a factored base salary. Another issue is when people are doing sales and there's people who aren't quite excited, management team is not hiring the right people. You got a lot of people in an actual retail store who are just taking the actual base salary and they're not hitting their commissions, which means volume is less and the company's making obviously less profit. So the company needs to factor in these numbers for people who are not hitting the actual commissions. Okay. So when this is happening, well, when you or, whoever is actually hitting the commissions and a person who's a top salesperson is always exceeding, well, a portion of you not maximizing your full commissions, being on 100% commission, is a reason why retail stores do that, because it goes to compensate for the people who are collecting that salary. And that's what I didn't like about the 100% commission. I wanted to be on something where it was 100% commission. Everybody was, because, hey, if you sell and you're confident that you can do it, well, by all means, you're going to get paid top dollar for every single sale because the overhead's way less for the people who aren't producing. Okay. Now, another thing with retail you need to factor in is the pros and cons of this is the good side is people come to you, right? The good thing is with a retail store, you got people walking into the store. You got, just customers coming up to you. And when a customer is walking in, and think about yourself, when you walked into a clothing store, you walk into a Best Buy, you walk into an electronics store, you walk into a furniture store, you may not be looking to purchase that actual product right away. But the one thing is that you do know is this person is remotely interested in checking it out in the general type of product that relies in your store. So a good salesperson will be able to take someone in from, I like hockey, so I'm walking in a hockey shop. Now with a salesperson that can guide me in the right direction, he can actually sell me a hockey product. But I walked into a hockey store. I personally don't like basketball. So I would not even walk into a basketball shop unless I was shopping for somebody else. Okay. There's obviously, different types of scenarios, but I wouldn't quite walk into that. A female shop, shopping for my wife, right? Or my daughter. But other than that, I'm not going to really walk into just a female store. So, I'm walking into a men's sporting goods store. I like men's sport goods, whatever. I like those products, right? So think about this. At a retail store, when somebody walks in, and obviously there'll be people with this person, but, if somebody's walking in, they're remotely interested or they're actively looking for something in particular. So they're very targeted. they are extremely targeted. That's the pros. The cons are, and I've been faced with this when I was actually selling electronics at a store named Visions. A lot of you Canadians will know this, but Visions Electronics, when I was selling electronics for years there, years, I think about a year or so, but when I was selling electronics, the amount of people that walk into my retail store is what? How many will come? I am not in control of how many people I can talk to in any given day. I remember there were days that, it was horrendous. Nobody's walking in and there's 18 people on the floor waiting, just bloodthirsty, waiting for somebody to come in, only for you to snag up the next customer that walks in. And yeah, people fight. It's sad, but it's like a Shark Tank, I like to call it. But, people fight. Salespeople fight for who's going to take that next customer. And they look at them. They're like, they start judging you like, I don't want this customer. Let somebody else take that one. This guy looks like he's got money. This gal looks like she can. This person, I hated it. I hated that retail environment. In the retail environment, when you're on commission, technically, just like kind of like car sales, from what I hear from all the car sales people who came to work knocking on doors, it's a Shark Tank, and nobody really, you play like you like the other person to the right or left of you, but it's not like a family. It's not like people work together. In door-to-door sales, you don't have that issue. Okay, you are in control of how many people walk in your of how many people you talk to. You really are. Yeah, but Paul, there's not a lot of people home during the day. Yeah, but there's not a lot. Bullcrap. Okay? I can guarantee you that you can talk to enough people, qualified people in a given day, if you follow my teachings. If you really know about how I teach, what I teach, when to knock, and all the details, you can talk to enough people knocking on doors, okay, to be more than busy for a day where you couldn't handle enough. There's how many millions of doors out there, okay? That's the pros of actually knocking on doors. One of the big pros is the retail space where, your company had, if they didn't advertise, they didn't spend enough money on advertising that week on news, radio, TV. Well, not so many people are coming in. If the weather's horrible outside and not enough people come in that day, well, you're not in control of how many people you actually talk to.
DoorToDoorMastery.com, your source of motivation, information, and inspiration to closing more sales. Selling door to door, that's DoorToDoorMastery.com.
Thank you so much, sweetheart, for that beautiful introduction to DoorToDoorMastery.com. Like I said, I'm going to say that again, Sunday, you're going to get the podcast, brand new podcast release, and then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're going to get the blog posts. Okay, so jumping back into it, let's talk about door-to-door sales now. We just briefly talked about the pros of that. With door-to-door sales, you get to talk to as many people as you want. You are in control of how many people you talk to. Now, as qualified, well, that's why I had a blog post on what to sell door-to-door. If you're doing, let's just say, home security, solar, something that deals with the customer's home, something that deals with the actual customer's place of residence where, pest control. That's why I always recommend pest control. I recommend home security, and I highly recommend solar. I recommend these three as my top 3 picks for what to sell door to door. Jewelry is everybody, knocking on doors. And I'm beating up one of my friends who does selling, who's doing door to door for selling jewelry. It's awesome. You can be very successful doing it, but I'm just explaining the difference. Okay. The difference between that and doing homeowners is there's more qualified people you get to talk to that will be interested in what you have to offer. If you're doing a charity, that's awesome too. However, understand when you're actually doing charities, your number one goal is to build like and trust. Mainly trust, because there's a lot of scam charities out there, and I know you more than likely aren't doing any scam charities, but that's what people have in the back of their mind. You need to understand door-to-door sales is about understanding how your potential customers are thinking, and in that given moment, you get better at it the more and more you do it. So, okay, we talked about that. Now, talking to people is unlimited. You can basically go out there and speak to as many people as you like, right? And then, being friendly and personable and dealing with an actual product right then and there at the door, instead of cold calling on the phone, which that still works, but you got to watch your actual laws, because it's getting more and more strict every single day. You can really get huge lawsuits by not having by people being on a do not call list, telemarketing. Make sure if you're going to do telemarketing, you do it right. You have to understand the laws. You don't just jump into telemarketing. Do not. You can get charged hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your company, if you're doing it the wrong way, you got to really research do your homework correctly on that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to bring someone on the show later on in later upcoming episodes about cold calling on the phones, and we'll get the whole details of that. However, jumping back into the pros of door-to-door sales, when you find somebody who's remotely interested in what you're saying because you're doing the right things, like I explained in this podcast and everywhere in my teachings, you will understand that being there right then and there on the spot, getting the job done, closing the sale right then and there on the spot, you got a higher chance of closing it when you're actually at the door, because you can not push, but guide your customer. You can guide your customer into that actual sale right then and there and get the job done. Okay, so that's another benefit of doing door-to-door sales. So I really like that part of door-to-door sales because it really, really does benefit you as the potential person who's going door-to-door canvassing. If you especially got all your permits and you did everything the right way, you can really do it. Now, one big thing I love about door-to-door sales, another huge thing that I love about door-to-door sales, if you've already been knocking on doors and you actually work in an office or you're thinking about it, you're going to realize this. Everybody in a door-to-door sales company is typically like family. Everybody becomes like family. You start hanging out with the people after work. You start hanging out with the people during work. You start talking to people. It's just such a social environment. And when somebody gets a sale, everyone is super excited for you. Yeah, in the back of their heads, when hey, Paul, how many did you get today? I got 5. People are super excited, like, damn, that guy's freaking amazing. Or on the back of their head, you're like, what's wrong with me? How come I can't be just like him? As opposed to, if you just, when people walk into a retail store, for example, and I sold a TV or I sold, car audio, they'd look at me like, oh, that could have been my customer. I could have made those commissions. It's completely different with door-to-door sales because people always know it's like, yeah, I could be knocking on the door right across the street. Even if I've gotten sales where someone's like, oh man, why did I give you this street? I could have got that. It's like, okay, well, why didn't you close one on your street? You want me to go on your street? I go on their side of the street and I close the deal. It's not about where you're knocking. Door-to-door sales is about talking to the right person and handling it correctly.
Strategically designed with the door knocker in mind. Best door knocking tips and advice at doortodoormastery.com.
doortodoormastery.com. I added on the actual blog an actual please rate on iTunes on the right-hand side. Subscribe with iTunes, an arrow pointing to the actual cover art of Door-to-Door Mastery Podcast. So I need you to rate this actual podcast. Give me a 5-star rating if you believe that's what it is, or give me whatever rating you believe this podcast deserves. Okay? Really be honest with it, whatever you like, and leave a review. Why do I need that? It helps the rankings. I'm in the careers tab, and in the careers tab, I want to be in the top 10. I want to be the first. I'm competitive by nature, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. So I need your help in getting me there. Okay? Really need your help. So I need you guys staying focused on actual door-to-door sales. Know that to create a solid income, you're going to have to be different than the average salesperson at the door. And that's what I teach. I teach you guys how to be different, because a lot of people think door-to-door sales is all about pushing and forcing people at the doors. How do I become pushy so I can actually do what the top salespeople are doing? Well, I'll tell you one thing. The top salespeople, the mass majority of good top salespeople at door-to-door sales, what they're not doing is being pushy. They're guiding. And how do you guide? How do you guide a customer into getting what you have to offer? Plain and simple, it's knowing your product and following my step-by-step process. Because when you actually follow my step-by-step process that I teach in my door-to-door mastery area, I promise you, you'll be on your way to closing more and more sales, selling door-to-door. What would that mean to your life? Well, check it out. When you actually go to any of my blog posts, or if you're on doortodoormastery.com, on the right, you'll see Learn How to Sell and Door-to-Door Mastery Program, okay? Click there, get involved, and make sure you learn exactly all that you need to do to close more sales. See you in the next episode.
You have been listening to the Door to Door Mastery Podcast. It is time for you to take your door knocking to the next level. Receive Paul's free video series teaching you how to master your opener pitch, understanding your features and benefits, and knowing when and how to close the sale. Be a successful door knocker. Be there now. DoorToDoorMastery.com. That's DoorToDoorMastery.com.